Good evening, darlings and deviants. My name is Lucy, and I'm just a little loony. You know, as I was building my last commander deck, I realized something. There's just way too many really awesome legendaries in this game. How am I supposed to choose? More importantly, why should I have to choose? Isn't there an archetype that'll just let me play all of my favorite legendary creatures? If you've ever shared this plight of mine, then you're in luck, because this next chapter of the Commander Compendium is going to be dealing with just that, legendaries. There have been so many legendary cards printed in this game that you can build a deck with most of them and cards designed to help them out. I think it's best if we call this by a catchier name than just a legendary deck or legendary tribal. How about Oops All Legends? Yeah, that sounds good. Oops All Legends. With that settled, let's start the show. Oops All Legends is an archetype centered in all 5 colors of Magic. The commanders that helm this sort of deck tend to be 5 colors and benefit off of legendaries. They're either caring about legendaries, playing legendaries, or caring about legendaries being legendary. It's gonna be a lot like, I guarantee you this episode, that word is going to lose all meaning for you. To explain what I mean, let's look at some of the potential commanders for an Oops All Legends deck. While almost any 5-color commander can do a job for this, the 3 who come to mind are Jodah the Unifier, Sisay, Weatherlight Captain, or Esika, God of the Tree. Jodah the Unifier is a 5/5 legendary creature, human wizard, with a mana cost of white, blue, black, red, and green. He has the ability that legendary creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of legendary creatures you control. Psst! This includes himself, so he's actually a 6/6. In addition, he has whenever you cast a legendary spell from your hand, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a legendary non-land card with lesser mana value. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This means that each legendary spell in your hand has a sort of cascade mechanic, allowing your board to grow bigger and out of control the more you cast spells from your hand, as long as those spells are legendary. Sisay, Weatherlight Captain, is a 2/2 legendary creature, human soldier, for 2 and a white. She gets +1/+1 for each color among other legendary permanents you control, and has an activated ability for white, blue, black, red, and green that allows you to search your library for a legendary permanent card with mana value less than her power. But put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Sisay works well with the team, and her ability shows that off. Assemble your crew, then go tutor up some of the most powerful cards in your deck. Esika, God of the Tree, is a modal double-face card with 2 sides. The front is the god herself, 1 generic and 2 green mana for a 1/4 god with Vigilance who can tap to add 1 mana of any color and gives your other legendary creatures that same ability. This side ramps you and helps you get even more legends out. Plus it enables some pretty cool combos. But her other side is even more explosive. The Prismatic Bridge is a legendary enchantment for white, blue, black, red, and green, which says, at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a creature or planeswalker card. Put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This makes the start of your turn super explosive every time, making sure you hit a legendary card every time. Keep in mind, although it looks like Esika is a mono-green commander on the front side, since she's a modal double-face card, she counts both the front and the back. So because she has that Prismatic Bridge, and Prismatic Bridge has all 5 colors, she's a-okay for this deck. These 3 commanders all benefit from having legends in their own ways, each one having a different angle to approach the deck building and playstyle. Pick whichever one speaks to you. Personally, I prefer Esika, as she lets you ramp out more stuff, but if you don't need the ramp, or you already have all your colors fixed up in a 5-color deck, you can play the Prismatic Bridge and slam some big, beefy boys. Or girls. Or creatures. There's a lot of legendary things. Now let's get into some of the big reasons you're playing Oops All Legends. There's a lot, so I'll sort them into big plays, synergy enhancers, and the spice. Keep in mind, this isn't all of the cool cards that synergize with legendaries. You'll have to do a bit of exploration on your own. I can't do everything for you. I'm not your mom after all. However, I will list some of my favorite ones. For big plays, we're talking the heavy hitters among the heavy hitters. Cards that are some of the first to slot into your deck. Urza's Ruinous Blast, aside from showing off the culmination of one of the biggest villains in Magic the Gathering, Don't At Me, is 4 and a white for legendary sorcery which exiles all non-land permanents that aren't legendary. As a note, you can only cast legendary sorceries if you have a legend out on the battlefield, but in this sort of deck, you'll have one of those unless you're losing by a lot. This is an amazingly one-sided board wipe that'll leave your opponents with next to nothing, and you with a massive board of threats. Primeval's Glorious Rebirth is another legendary sorcery for 5 generic, a white, and a black. You get to bring back every legend card from your graveyard onto the battlefield. Every single one. Every legendary creature, land, artifact, and even all of your planeswalkers. Did your board just get wiped? No, it didn't. It's all back, and it's even stronger because you have it all at once. Rotodropic Urborg is a relatively newer card that gives some extra staying power and some potentially explosive plays. For 2, a white and a black, you get a 3/3 zombie wizard with vigilance and ward 2. It gives your other zombies vigilance, which isn't super relevant in its own since we're playing Oops All Legends and not Oops All Zombies, but the second ability gives you a little bit of context for that. Whenever a legendary creature you control dies, you make a 2/2 zombie token copy that's not legendary. It doesn't exile the card importantly, so if you can resurrect them, like with Primeval's Glorious Rebirth, you can double up on your legends and their effects. Next, we're looking at synergy enhancers, cards that take your legends and make them even better. Dihada, Binder of Wills, is a planeswalker for 1, a red, a white, and a black who starts with 5 loyalty. Her +2 lets you give a legendary creature you control Indestructible, Vigilance, and Lifelink in order of the importance. It lets any creature you control swing in without worrying about the blockers at hand. And it gives you a blocker for Dihada because people are going to be attacking her because she is very strong. Her -3 lets you reveal the top 4 cards of your library and add any of the legendaries from among them into your hand and put the rest into your graveyard. For each card that goes in the graveyard, you get a treasure token. You're either getting 4 cards, 4 treasures, or some number in between more than likely. Keep in mind though, if you don't need any of the legendaries that you reveal off of this ability, you can just put them all into the graveyard and get 4 treasures. Her -11, if you get there, takes all of your opponent's non-land permanents and gives them haste. If your opponents have any form of board, this will hit them where it hurts and is likely to finish the game off all on her own. Captain Sisay is an old school card that seems to only get better with time. For 2, a green and a white, you get a 2/2 that can tap and search your library for any legendary card in your deck. Need that legendary land? She can get that. Need a planeswalker? She can get that. Need that super cool artifact? She can pick that up on the way for you. Need that super cool creature right now? She has their number on speed dial. Sisay could honestly run a commander deck on her own as well if you wanted to just stick with the green and white. And I don't make the rules, I'm not your mom, but I'm just saying it's a really bad flavor fail if you play Captain Sisay in a Sisay Weatherlight Captain deck. I don't make the rules, those are 2 different points in time for this girl. I haven't met her personally, I think she's dead. Isn't she dead? Oh no, she's dead. Finally, a pair of cards, Relic of Legends and Honor-Worn Shaku. They're both 3-mana artifacts that tap to add mana. The Relic adds colored mana, while the Shaku adds colorless. And they're both good because they can turn your legendary cards into extra mana. The Relic only works on legendary creatures, and the Shaku can use any legendary permanent to untap. However, the Shaku only makes colorless, whereas the Relic can add colored mana. I would just run both of these, they both can ramp you out very quickly and very efficiently. Finally, let's get into the spice. The cards that make you want to play all of these really cool legends. Aside from, the really cool commanders that let you do it. Helm of the Host is a 4-mana legendary artifact equipment that says at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except the token isn't legendary and that token gains haste, along with an equip cost of 5. Just like Radadrabic, this card lets you get non-legendary copies of your best legends and grow your army. Most legends are balanced around that whole fact that they're legendary and you can only have one of them, so getting another one just adds so much room for shenanigans and powerful plays. Avacyn's Memorial is 5 and 3 white mana for a legendary indestructible artifact that gives all of your legendary permanents indestructible. Is it expensive? Yes. Is it color intensive? Also yes. Is it very splashy and will draw a variety of groans and swears from your opponents when it lands? Absolutely. Giving indestructible to basically your entire board on an artifact that in and of itself is indestructible is very annoying to deal with. Your opponent kind of has to hope they have a massive bounce effect, or just hope you don't have that many legendary permanents. Finally, Kethis, the Hidden Hand, is a 3/4 legendary elf advisor for a white, a black, and a green. He says that legendary spells you cast cost 1 generic less to cast, which helps you ramp out into your other legends, which in and of itself is a solid effect, but his second effect is much cooler. For the cost of exiling any 2 legendary cards from your graveyard, that includes lands, artifacts, anything that you're not using right now, you can get the ability to cast any of the other legends in your graveyard for their mana cost. You don't get to cheat him out, he's not that good. But being able to replay some of your biggest haymakers is really powerful, and that's why I like him. He also makes them cheaper the second go around. And I guess that's it for today. Except it's totally not, because you know I've always got a special trick up my sleeve. This card is one I found pretty interesting, as it makes a legendary deck like this one have a bit more consistency and staying power, and it comes from the far-flung year of 40,000. It's Lich Guard. For 2 and a black, you get a 2/3 artifact creature Necron, which has Guardian protocols. What's that mean? It means you can pay 3 and a black, along with sacrificing it, to put all your legendary creatures back into your hand. It's not as much of a blowout as giving them all indestructible or anything like that, and I'll be honest, when I read it the first time I thought it brought them all back and it was really busted and insane, but it's still pretty good. Being able to draw most of your entire graveyard back after a long game or even a big board wipe is just a massive buff in value. With that, that'll wrap up this chapter of the Commander Compendium. Hopefully you enjoyed learning about all these cool synergies and all these cool legendary effects. Do you have an archetype you'd want me to look into next? Maybe you have a comment on the video. Maybe you just want to say hopefully nice things to me. Whatever your intentions you may have, be sure to leave a comment below. And while you're here, please be sure to give me a like and a subscribe. I hear those help feed the ancient ritual known as the algorithm? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Whatever weird magic that is. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, au revoir.